revealed how this touching woman gave up everything for her bankrupt billionaire husband then died. Sarah never imagined she would be sitting in the dim light of their kitchen, wiping away tears as she carefully packed away family heirlooms that had once filled their home with warmth and memories. The embroidered quilt her grandmother made, the silverware set she had inherited from her mother. Each item was a reminder of love, laughter, and a life built on dreams. But with her husband Thomas staring into the abyss of bankruptcy, those dreams felt like they were being sold off piece by piece. It stung to see their family SUV, once the pride of their neighborhood, sitting idle in the driveway, a ghost of the life they had built in the past. Thomas had stood tall, a billionaire who changed the face of the town, but now his shoulders were heavy under the strain of financial collapse. Sarah knew he was struggling. It showed in the hollow look in his eyes. "I can't bear this, Sarah," he confessed one night, his voice breaking. In that moment it felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. Sarah fought back the urge to scream. She wanted to be strong for him, for their son Jake. But as she combed through their treasures, she could feel the first fissures forming in her heart. "This is the right thing to do," she whispered to herself, trying to convince her conflicted emotions. The sacrifices weighed heavily on her, but the thought of losing the life they built together fueled her resolve. Still, the weight of the situation loomed dark and heavy. Their 16-year-old son Jake was caught in the hurricane of change. Each laugh shared with friends felt like a betrayal when those same friends started to drift away. Whispers of bankruptcy muffled yet echoing in their small town. Jake buried his head in his schoolwork while struggling to navigate the turbulent waters of adolescence against the backdrop of his family's unraveling. A world once filled with football practice and home-cooked dinners now left him feeling lost and ashamed. The townspeople began to notice the scattered comments, the dilapidated SUV, the missing luxuries that screamed their former glory. Soon enough, Sarah found herself at the center of an unwelcome spotlight, where whispers and judgments floated like heavy clouds overhead. She was reduced to a topic of discussion over backyard fences. "Did you hear about the Kings?" The hurt bubbled inside her like an ache she couldn't shake as the community seemed polarized. Sarah reached her breaking point. Just when she thought she couldn't bear another minute of loneliness, a surprise doorbell rang one sunny afternoon. On her porch stood Mrs. Carmichael and the neighborhood crew with baskets of food and heartfelt hugs. There was a spirit of unity growing. Sarah felt the walls of despair begin to falter, if only slightly. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Fueled by newfound support, Jake rallied his friends for a fundraising event in the park. With flyers plastered across the town, excitement filled the air, rekindling a sense of community that once thrived. But amidst the hope, chaos struck when a pie-eating contest went wrong, turning into a media frenzy that sent waves of further backlash crashing down on Thomas and Sarah. As disbelief settled in, Sarah felt lost and unwanted. Would her sacrifices ever matter? Would her marriage withstand the pressure? As the community began to argue over their family's actions, an unexpected donation arrived, leaving them stunned. With the stakes higher than ever, Sarah's heart raced. What did this mean for their fragmented family? Would they find redemption amid the chaos, or would hardship tear them apart for good? With everything in the balance, Sarah prepared to navigate the tumultuous waters of love and sacrifice one more time. The next morning, the sunlight spilled into the kitchen, illuminating the mess of unmade decisions still scattered across the table. Sarah glanced at the donation check, its amount startling enough to make her heart skip a beat. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, feeling its weight and the hope it carried. Could this be their lifeline? Could it silence those vicious whispers? Questions raced in her mind as she traced her fingers over the sender's name, something foreign yet oddly familiar. Meanwhile, Thomas shuffled into the kitchen, his eyes bleary and puffy from another sleepless night. The shame clung to him like a shadow, making it difficult for him to meet her gaze. She swallowed hard, knowing that confronting the issue meant dredging up feelings they both tried so hard to suppress. "What is that?" he asked, pointing to the check. It just came in, Sarah replied cautiously, waiting for disbelief to cloud his features. Instead, his brows knitted together in confusion. What do you mean it just came in? He leaned closer, tension emerging in every muscle. Someone in the community sent it. Her voice faltered, feeling the weight of every unspoken word press against her. I thought it might help. Thomas's face shifted from confusion to horror. Help? Do you understand what this means? We can't just accept charity. They talk. They judge. Shadows of anger flashed in his eyes before they dimmed as reality sank in once more. Tom, we are at rock bottom. No one is judging what we've lost. They see how hard we're trying. As she spoke, the kitchen pulled closer, feeling smaller under the mounting tension. She could see the battle raging within him, torn between the pride of his past self and the vulnerability that bankruptcy had thrust upon him. Trying? He shot back, his voice rising. This isn't about trying. Look at us. We've lost everything. The house, the friends, and just like that, the dam broke. Tears trickled down Sarah's cheeks, raw and unfiltered. I know, Thomas. I know. But we have to let others help us. This doesn't mean we're weak. We can't recover without support. At that moment, Jake burst into the kitchen, his phone clutched tightly in his hand, oblivious to the storm building ahead. Mom, Dad. You won't believe what just happened. The tension seemed to evaporate for an instant as both Sarah and Thomas turned toward him. What is it, Jake? Sarah asked, dabbing at her eyes, desperate to suppress her emotions. Cole posted about our fundraiser, and he challenged everyone to double what they give this week. Jake's excitement was palpable, radiating a spark of hope into the wall of despair surrounding them. Really? Thomas's reverie broke, a small smile making its way across his face for the first time in weeks. Yeah. Look. Jake thrust his phone forward, and both parents leaned in, curiosity piqued. The screen showed a snap of Jake's friends holding signs, demanding support for the Kings. For a brief moment, the world felt lighter, brimming with possibility. The three of them stood there, caught in a whirlwind of emotions: happiness, relief, confusion, until the reality of the situation hit like a cold wave. Great, but we still don't know if this will be enough, Thomas said, the cracks in his facade deepening. Maybe it's a start, Sarah added quietly, glancing between the two. She felt a surge of protective instinct for her family, the urge to mend the fragments. Let us work together. We can find a way through. But as hope began to bloom within their family circle, a loud knock echoed through the house, rattling Sarah's heart. She exchanged worried glances with Thomas and Jake, anxiety pooling in the pit of her stomach. Who could that be? Would they come bearing more judgments, more scrutiny? Taking a deep breath, she approached the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. The door creaked open, revealing a figure wrapped in shadows, their expression unreadable. Can we talk? The voice crackled, a mix of resolve and desperation. What could they possibly want now? Sarah's heart raced, and an uneasy thought gnawed at her. Was this another fracture threatening to dismantle what little they had left? As Sarah stood there, staring into the unknown, she knew this moment could change everything once again. What was waiting on the other side of that door? Sarah hesitated, her hand lingering on the doorknob. The atmosphere seemed thick with unspoken words. The figure outside shifted slightly, their features still shrouded in the shadows. Thomas stepped beside her, his presence a mix of curiosity and anxiety. Jake remained a few paces back, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Who is it? Thomas asked, voice low, as if afraid to break the delicate tension. I don't know, Sarah whispered in response, her heart thudding in her chest. Should we let them in? Thomas asked, worry etched deep into his face. He was ready to protect them, but what from? The unexpected visitor brought a chilling sense of dread that settled in the pit of Sarah's stomach. Before she could answer, the figure spoke again, clearer this time. It's me, Lisa. A rush of recognition sent Sarah's heart racing. Lisa, the local community leader, had been an unwavering supporter through their toughest days. Yet, that very familiarity twisted the feeling of dread into something heavier. What do you want? Thomas's voice was strained, defensive. We need to talk, Lisa answered, her voice soft yet firm. I came to discuss the fundraiser and some options you might not have considered. Options? The word hung in the air like a lifeline. yet felt so fraught with potential consequences. Sarah opened the door wider, conflicting emotions swirling within her. As Lisa stepped in, the sunlight spilled over her, illuminating her worn jeans and a sweater that hugged her frame, revealing a weightiness in her gaze. She looked tired but determined. "I've been following everything that's been happening," Lisa began, her eyes darting between the three of them. "And I think together we can turn this around." "What do you mean turn this around?" Thomas interjected, skepticism in his tone. "Money isn't the problem. We need a miracle." Lisa shook her head slowly. "It's not just about money. It's about community. I've spoken with some of your neighbors. They want to help, but there's a lot of fear over how this situation has affected all of you." Tension filled the room again. Sarah felt the gnawing shame creep back in, as if it could choke out the flicker of hope that had begun to grow. "What do you want from us?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your trust," Lisa said, her gaze pinning them in place. "I want you to let us in to share your story. Vulnerability grows connection, and connection creates support." Thomas let out a hollow laugh. "You want us to be the town spectacle? To parade our misfortune?" "No. That's not it at all," Lisa implored, frustration lacing her voice. "You've been through a lot, and people don't just see your loss. They see a family fighting to stay afloat. They want to support you, but you have to let them." Silence fell, thick and oppressive, as Sarah exchanged uncertain glances with Thomas and Jake. Could they bear to bare their souls like that? "Maybe it's worth considering," Sarah said quietly, the words tumbling out more easily than she had expected. We could share our story." Thomas's jaw tightened as he weighed each word. "And risk being judged? To be analyzed every step of the way?" Lisa stepped closer, sincerity shining in her eyes. "You're already in the hands of judgment. But what if you could transform that judgment into compassion? Into action? Think of Jake's friends. The community has your back." Jake's face lit up at the mention of his friends, but even he seemed hesitant, understanding the delicate balance between vulnerability and pride. "Just think it over," Lisa urged, glancing at each of them. "I can help organize a gathering, bring people together to hear your truth." As Lisa spoke, Sarah could feel that familiar flicker of hope battling with doubt, the scales tipping as visions of what they could do danced before her. Would they let their fear keep them from reaching out for help? Thomas broke the silence. "We'll think about it." "Thank you," Lisa replied, a hopeful smile appearing on her face before she turned to leave. As the door closed behind her, the room fell back into a haunting stillness. Jake eventually broke the silence. "Mom, what do you think we should do?" Sarah looked at her family, her heart aching with love and uncertainty. "We need to decide, don't we?" But just as her words settled, a sudden burst of notifications on Jake's phone interrupted the quiet. "They're already rallying for support," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. A tidal wave of emotions washed over her once again, apprehension and gratitude intermingling. Could they really take that leap? What if this was the push they needed to rebuild? As Jake showed them the screen, Sarah wondered if the community truly could be their salvation, or would the weight of their past keep pulling them under? The real question lingered. Could they truly embrace the power of connection they so desperately needed? Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart as Jake continued to scroll through the messages on his phone. The screen lit up the room as a chorus of notifications chimed in. Each ding felt like an echo of hope, a reminder that they weren't entirely alone. It sparked something within her, a desire to trust in the very community that had supported them on this difficult journey. "I can't believe they're already trying to help us," Jake said, his voice a mix of disbelief and joy. She could see him lean in closer to the screen, intrigued by what his friends were saying. But Sarah couldn't just bask in the moment. Doubt crept back in, spiraling around her thoughts like a dark cloud. "I don't want to be a burden," she said, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "I don't want people to feel sorry for us." Thomas sighed, his expression grave yet contemplative. "It's not about feeling sorry, Sarah." His words trailed off, as if he wasn't sure how to articulate what he was feeling. "It's about genuine support. They see us and they want to help. But what if it backfires?" Jake interjected, his youthful optimism wavering under the weight of adult fears. "What if they don't understand?" He had a point. Vulnerability had a price, and the thought of being judged or misunderstood gnawed at her insides. Sarah wanted to protect her family from pain, but she couldn't deny the flicker of hope lighting up Jake's face. As she watched him, a realization struck her. Maybe it wasn't the community she was afraid of. It was opening up to them, allowing them to see her raw pain. But isolation had become unbearable. Maybe we could start small, Sarah proposed tentatively, her eyes flitting between Jacob and Thomas. We could meet with a few neighbors, maybe share a little bit and see how it feels. Jake nodded. Enthusiasm rekindled. Yeah, that sounds better. Just a small group, right? Thomas's shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension easing at the prospect. You realize that building trust means taking risks. But maybe those risks could lead to something good. As they discussed further, little sparks of excitement replaced the heavy air in the room. They began to brainstorm people they could talk to, first neighbors who had reached out and offered their support in the past. Each name breathed new life into the idea. Suddenly, a thought hit Sarah like a bolt of lightning. What if we recorded our story? She blurted out, not entirely believing what she was saying. I mean, like a video. We could share it online, and if people wanted to help, they could. Jake's eyes lit up at the idea, a wide smile breaking through. That could totally work. Then they'd see how much we want to fight for each other and how hard we've been trying. Thomas's brow furrowed, but his skepticism almost seemed like hope when he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Sharing it online could reach more people. But it could also attract unwanted attention, he cautioned almost protectively. Unwanted attention, Sarah repeated softly, letting the phrase echo in her mind. They had been living under the shadow of judgment for so long. But here was an opportunity to share their truth on their own terms. Lisa believes in us, Sarah finally said, conviction flooding her voice. Her words hung in the air, leaving a bittersweet stillness. It felt daunting, but maybe they could finally change the narrative from shame to strength. Let us talk to Lisa first, Jake suggested, his youthful excitement breaking through once more. She can help us figure out how to do this the right way. As they made plans to reach out to Lisa again, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. This could be the spark they needed. They could turn their pain into something powerful, something that could lift them up instead of holding them down. But as her heart filled with determination, a thought crept in. What if sharing their story didn't just invite support, it brought their past, hidden shadows back into the light? Just then the phone buzzed again, and Sarah turned to see another message from one of Jake's friends pop up on the screen. It read simply, "We're here for you. You're not alone." Tears pricked her eyes, but this time, they weren't just tears of sadness, they were tears of possibility. Could they truly let the world in? And as the question loomed over her, she wondered if the leap of faith would be the most freeing thing they could do, or the perilous edge of a deeper plunge. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, casting a soft glow on Sarah's face. She woke with a mixture of excitement and anxiety swirling in her stomach. Today was the day they would reach out to Lisa. It felt like a step toward a new beginning. Yet the nagging fear of the past lingered like a shadow. "Mom, are we doing it?" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. He was leaning against the doorframe, his school backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes wide with anticipation. "Yeah, we are," Sarah said, pushing herself off the bed. She felt the weight of responsibility tugging at her. "We'll call Lisa after breakfast." As they sat together at the kitchen table, Jake eagerly shared his plans for the day. "I can tell my friends about the project during lunch. They'll want to help us film." The excitement in his voice was infectious, and Sarah couldn't help but smile. Thomas entered, disrupting the blissful moment. "Are you ready?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "Remember, this is a big move." "I know," she said, her heart racing, "but it might be what we need." After breakfast, Sarah grabbed her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she dialed Lisa's number. Each ring echoed in her mind, filling her with dread. What if Lisa didn't think it was a good idea? "Hey Sarah." Lisa's cheerful voice came through. "What's up?" "Hi Lisa. We were hoping to talk to you about something important." "Oh, tell me," Lisa said, her enthusiasm never faltering. Taking a deep breath, Sarah explained their idea about recording their story, the feeling of vulnerability creeping back in. The silence after she finished felt like an eternity. "Wow, that's brave of you," Lisa finally said. "I think sharing your story could really inspire others. You just need to be mindful." Authenticity is key. Relief washed over Sarah, mixed with a whirl of emotions. But what if people don't get it? What if they judge us? Judgment will always be there. But you can choose how you handle it. Remember, it's your truth. Own it. Her words resonated, fueling Sarah's determination. We want to lift each other up instead of living in fear. That's the spirit. Let us brainstorm how to present it so it resonates with everyone. When do you want to shoot? After ending the call, the three of them gathered around the table again, excitement buzzing in the air. Sarah felt a spark. This could create a shift in their narrative. Should we start prepping for what we want to say? Jake asked, his eyes sparkling with ambition. Right. And let us think about what we've been through and how we've come through it together, Thomas added. They began jotting down key experiences. The struggles, the moments of joy, and all the times they leaned on each other. The words flowed, and soon their fears began to fade. Sharing their story was becoming less about exposing their pain and more about celebrating their resilience. But then a whisper of doubt slipped back in. What if this opens old wounds? Sarah wondered aloud. Is it worth it? Jake met her gaze fiercely. Mom, if we can help someone else, isn't that worth it? We've been through hell, but we're still standing. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as she held onto her son's fierce spirit. He was right. They had endured so much, and perhaps this was their chance to own their story. And just as they prepared to take the leap, an unexpected notification flashed on Jake's phone, a new message from a neighbor wanting to check in. The screen lit up with warmth, a sweet reminder that help was just around the corner. Looks like we might not be alone after all, Thomas said, humor punctuating the moment as they burst into laughter. Sarah realized each shared message and each small step was sketching a broader picture of hope. They were staring into the unknown, ready to break free from the silence. But what would unfold when they chose to reveal their truth? Would it truly liberate them, or would the past come rushing back uninvited? Jake's phone buzzed again, pulling everyone back from the warmth of shared laughter. He glanced at the screen. It was a text from their neighbor, Mrs. Miller, who often checked in on them. Just wanted to see how you're all doing. Let me know if you need anything. The heartfelt message made Sarah smile, a simple reminder of the community that surrounded them. Maybe we should invite her over when we start filming, she suggested, feeling an impulse to share their journey. We can use all the support we can get. Definitely. I mean, she's the best. Plus, she could even help with the camera work. Jake's enthusiasm bubbled up again. Just then, a knock echoed from the front door. Thomas exchanged a quick glance with Sarah before heading over to open it. When he swung the door open, a rush of excitement coursed through Sarah. It was Mrs. Miller, vibrant as ever, her silver hair shining in the sunlight. Good morning, everyone, she chirped, stepping inside with a plate of cookies. Thought I'd bring a little treat for my favorite family. With each cookie placed on the table, Sarah felt the atmosphere brighten. It was as if Mrs. Miller's warm energy wrapped around them like a cozy blanket. Thanks, Mrs. Miller. We're just about to start working on something big, Jake announced, pouring out his excitement as if he couldn't contain himself. Oh, do tell. I love big projects. Feeling brave, Sarah explained their plan to film their journey. She held her breath slightly, waiting for the usual well-meaning but patronizing response. Instead, Mrs. Miller's eyes grew wide with admiration. That sounds incredible. You will inspire so many. I can't wait to see it. A wave of relief washed over Sarah. They weren't alone. They had the community behind them. An idea sparked in her mind, an invitation to include their neighbors, to gather a circle of support. What do you think about hosting a little get-together? Sarah suggested, her heart racing again. I could invite a few families over and we could share our story, then maybe film in front of everyone. It could be like a community unveiling. That's a fantastic idea, Mrs. Miller exclaimed, clapping her hands. You'd be surprised at how many people want to support you. I'll help organize it. Sarah felt a new wave of excitement. It was no longer just about the three of them. They could expand their story into a communal experience. A ripple of laughter, joy, and shared resilience could spread beyond their little family. Later that evening, as they sat together on the couch, rehearsing the main points of their narrative, Jake turned to his mom. It's kind of like we're building a bridge, right? From our past to our future? Exactly, sweetie, Sarah replied, A smile tugging at her lips. A bridge that others can cross too. The very thought filled her with hope, something she had longed for and fought to achieve. She glanced over at Thomas, finding him lost in thought. What are you thinking? What if we not only share our story but we let people share theirs too? He suggested quietly. His gaze simmered with ambition. We could create a space for everyone to talk about their struggles, and we could record that too. A whole tapestry of stories. As the idea settled in, a spark ignited again. The more they discussed it, the more brightly it burned in her heart. They could create a documentary of sorts, weaving their truths together with those of others, a collective movement toward healing. But with every dream came a wave of doubt. Did they really have the capacity to take this on? Sarah stared out the window, the sky fading into twilight. And then the phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a neighbor. It was a message that stopped her cold, a notification from a social media platform she had almost forgotten about. A comment on an old post, filled with anger and hurt, dredging up memories she thought were behind them. Why are you even trying? You'll never be good enough. The words hit Sarah like ice water. Would this be a part of sharing their truth? Their past, refusing to stay buried? As her heart raced and thoughts spiraled, she glanced at Jake and Thomas. They were looking to her for direction. Was she ready to face this? The weight of their collective past loomed larger than ever, and she couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing just beneath the surface of their newfound hope. Let us talk about this, Sarah murmured, a knot in her stomach, because she was about to find out just how powerful vulnerability could be. Would they still be strong enough to stand together when the tides turned against them? Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The words on her phone felt like a lead weight, dragging down her every thought. Okay, let us really talk about this, she said, adopting a steadier tone, trying to conceal her own turmoil from Jake and Thomas. Mom, what is it? Jake's voice was soft, instinctively sensing her tension. Is it about our film? She shook her head, holding the device closer as if the message could dissolve in her touch. Something else. Something that happened a while ago. Thomas leaned in closer, concern etching his features. Is it bad? It's about the things people said. Back when we were struggling. The words slipped from her lips, heavy yet liberating. This comment. It just brought it all back. Jake frowned, glancing at Thomas, then back to Sarah. What do you mean? What kind of things? It's just, when we were going through our rough patch, I had someone tell me I'd never be good enough. Like all of this, she waved her hand around, gesturing to their home. Their lives was just a failure waiting to happen. But that's not true, Mom, Jake exclaimed, his eyes wide with determination. You built this family. You made us. Sarah felt warmth spread through her heart at his words, the unwavering belief, the love that never faltered. She knew she had given everything to make them strong, to ensure the shadows of their past wouldn't define them. Still, sweetie, no one wants to be reminded of their shortcomings, she replied. When we share our story, there's the risk of facing that fear all over again. What if the negativity comes back? Thomas put his hand over hers, a gesture of solidarity. But isn't that what we're fighting against? Transparency? We can show them how we rose from our struggles, how we changed. His voice was steady, urging them forward. Sarah's head spun, dancing on a tightrope between fear and courage. But what if the past catches up with us? What if we become targets again? At that moment the lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls. It was as though the universe was echoing her internal conflict. What if we're stronger than we think? Jake countered, persistent like the sunrise. When we show our journey, we can prove that we are not defined by what people say. His words ignited a small flame of hope within her, pushing away the dark clouds of doubt. Maybe this is our chance to turn it into something powerful, she mused, her voice gaining strength. To create a wave of understanding and strength for others too. I'd be okay being vulnerable, as long as it means helping someone else, Thomas echoed thoughtfully. Mom, if we stand together we can make this work. Tentatively, Sarah nodded. She knew they were right, their story could energize and uplift others, even while risking the harsh judgment that sometimes stung like a bee. Okay, she breathed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Let us do it. Let us create that community unveiling. But we need to protect each other just in case. As they began to brainstorm ideas for the gathering, her mind drifted to the power of shared vulnerabilities. What if they could shine a light in the dark corners where so many hid their struggles? But then, just as enthusiasm filled the room, yet another notification chimed, louder and more demanding than before. "It's from the same person," Sarah said, her stomach nodding again. "V posted more." She read aloud, her voice shaking slightly. "I can't believe you're trying this again. You're just going to fail like last time." A chill ran through the room as all eyes turned toward each other. The supportive bubble that once felt so strong now wobbled, uncertain. "Are we sure we can face this?" Thomas whispered, the weight of fear now palpable. As Sarah met his gaze, the doubt lingered, but so did their shared resolve. She knew they would stand stronger together. But the true question remained, could they withstand the storm brewing just outside their doors? Sarah felt the air grow heavy, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them as Thomas's question hung in the silence. She could see his brows furrowed with worry, and Jake's wide eyes mirrored his apprehension. The darkness lurking at the edges of their decision felt more intense now, creeping into her thoughts. "It's just words, right?" She tried to sound upbeat, but it failed to mask the tremor in her voice. "People will say things no matter what. We can't let them dictate our lives." "Then why do I feel so scared?" Jake finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in his tone made her heart ache. "Because it matters, sweetie. It matters when you care about what people think." Thomas nodded. "We've already climbed so far. Sharing our story could be the final push we need. The risk only means we're moving towards something real." "Real or not, that doesn't make it any easier," Sarah reasoned, rubbing her arms. "We're not ready for more negativity. I thought we were past that. What if we flew higher?" Jake suggested, his bright spirit peeking through the shadows. "What if we can show everyone what we're really made of?" His words stirred something within her, a flicker of hope. Sarah glanced at her son, his youthful optimism a fierce contrast to the heaviness of doubt surrounding them. He had a way of illuminating the darkest corners, as if challenging her to embrace the idea of vulnerability with open arms. "Okay, let us not think of just the negatives," she said, her voice surging with a hint of determination. "What if we focus on the good? How we've grown stronger together as family." Their eyes lit up, encouragement burning brightly. "Then let us do it," Thomas said, enthusiasm bubbling in his words. "We can create an event where stories of hope are shared, a space for healing. Yeah, we could invite others to share their stories too." Jake's excitement grew, his hands gesturing animatedly. "Mom, remember the film festival? Everyone came together for one night and shared their journeys." "Yes, we can turn fear into strength," she exclaimed, feeling the shift in energy. "Let us plan this right. We could reach so many people." Just as they were about to dive into a whirlwind of ideas, the room fell silent again. Sarah hesitated, the notification still echoing in her mind. Each word from the comment was an unwelcome reminder. What would they say? Would they believe in us? "Mom," Jake's voice broke through her thoughts once again. "You don't have to read it. We can push that aside." Taking a deep breath, she realized he was right. The past is the past. She would not let this voice define her. "We'll create our own narrative," she said fiercely. "One filled with overcoming the struggles. It's our story. We can tell it however we want." Together, Thomas reinforced, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. The warmth of his embrace grounded her in the moment, shielding her from the chilly winds of doubt clashing outside. As they began jotting down ideas for the gathering, a communal circle of support and empowerment, Sarah reveled in the thrill of hope bursting vigorously within her. She could see it now. A haven for those who felt alone, a stage to unveil their collective strength. But just then, another notification chimed on her phone. The dread settled right back in her chest. Quickly, she glanced at Jake and Thomas, the fleeting joy dimming. "What now?" She breathed, heart racing again. "It can't be worse than before," Jake coaxed gently. "We've got this." With a resolute nod, she picked the phone up, but a part of her kept glancing at their faces, wondering if the storm outside was only brewing stronger. Sarah stared at the screen, her heart pounding. The words blared from her phone, taunting her like an unwanted specter. She felt the heat rise in her cheeks, her mouth going dry. It was one thing to face the public with resolve, It was another entirely to have the public scrutinize the most private aspects of her life. What does it say? Jake asked, a mix of concern and eagerness in his voice. He leaned in closer, his small frame tensed with anticipation. Nothing we need to worry about, she replied, forcing a smile. Just another rumor. Rumors are just stories too, Thomas interjected softly, his eyes watching her closely. But they don't define who you are or what we're trying to do. Remember that. His words sparked something inside her. A small ember of defiance ignited within her heart. They could face whatever was out there. Together. You're right, Sarah said, her resolve strengthening. We're not here to hide, we're here to shine. With a deep breath, she muted the phone and tossed it onto the table, making a decisive move. Let us go back to our plans. I want this event to be about hope and healing, not regrets. Jake's face lit up again. We should make a flyer with big letters. Share your story, find your strength. Yes. And let us include a list of activities. Maybe some art workshops or open mic sessions. Thomas chimed in, his excitement infectious. Sarah grabbed a notebook and began jotting down ideas. The fear that had gripped her now felt like an old coat she could shrug off. They started brainstorming together. Jake suggested a photography booth where people could capture their moments of triumph, and Thomas considered food that would reflect stories from different cultures, meals that brought comfort and connection. Can we make room for performances? Music and poetry? Jake's eyes sparkled as he spoke, a way for everyone to express their journeys. With each suggestion thrown out, Sarah felt lighter. They were building something beautiful, something that could connect them all. A space where vulnerability could transform into courage. Hours passed as they organized their thoughts. Soon the living room was full of colorful papers, sketches, and notes. They laughed a lot too, sharing memories and inspirations that fueled their spirits. But amid the joyful chaos, Sarah's thoughts drifted briefly to the notification on her phone. How could people write such cruel things when they hadn't walked a day in their shoes? Would she ever grow numb to the noise outside their little bubble? Just as the questions began circling her mind again, another ping echoed in the silence. The phone lit up, bringing her back abruptly. What now? She whispered, her fingers hesitating over the screen. Do you want us to check it? Thomas asked gently, sensing her retreat into doubt. No, she decided, shaking her head. I want to move forward. Let it sit. Let us get back to this. Jake beamed. We need some of those big foam boards too, right? To put in the park? Yes. We'll make it big and bright and welcoming, Sarah replied, focusing on the warmth of his excitement rather than the cold uncertainty lurking beyond their door. Just then, a new notification chimed. An unfamiliar name this time. Hey, who is that? Jake asked, craning his neck toward the screen again. His curiosity piqued. Her heart raced as she glanced at the message. What if it contained more negativity? Or worse, something that could splinter the togetherness they had just built? Sarah hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment rest heavily on her shoulders. I think I should check, she stammered, her voice catching slightly. Thomas squeezed her hand, encouragingly urging her to be brave. As she opened the message, her fingers trembled with anxiety. What awaited her behind that glow might change everything. The message from the unfamiliar name read simply, Your story matters. I want to help you. Sarah blinked, her heart racing. She read it again just to grasp the gravity of the words. What does it say? Jake asked, trying desperately to see the screen as curiosity bubbled in him. It's someone who wants to help, she replied, attempting to mask the whirlpool of emotions stirring inside her. What kind of help? Thomas prodded, leaning closer with cautious interest. Just support. They're reaching out. In that moment, a realization washed over Sarah. While the dark clouds of negativity circled above, so too existed rays of light, unexpected kindness that could break through. Maybe we're not alone in this after all, she murmured, barely able to contain her excitement. Jake lit up. See? Mom. It's proof. We can do this. If people are willing to help, it means our story really does matter. Thomas's brow lifted, his hopeful eyes meeting hers, igniting a sense of unity. Let us reach out. Respond to them. We'll figure out how we can weave every little moment of support into this gathering. Nervously but excitedly, Sarah tapped away at her phone, drafting a response that was sincere and filled with vulnerability. Thank you so much for your kind words. We're planning a community event to share our story and help others. Any support would mean the world to us." After hitting send, a sense of relief fell over her. She turned to her family, now radiating with determination. "Okay, let us get our flyers ready and start planning this event. If we can gather everyone, the fear will truly start to fade. It will become about hope and connection." So they worked. They folded colorful paper, hands moving in a synchronized rhythm, the energy in the room shifting from trepidation to exhilaration. As they created vibrant posters with bright lettering, ideas flowed like a wild river between them, a tapestry of hope, resilience, community, and love. Days passed and the event loomed closer, growing like a vibrant flower blossoming in spring. Each neighbor they approached welcomed the idea, their faces lighting up with support, a kaleidoscope of compassion and kindness. Mrs. Miller was in charge of decorations, while others volunteered everything from snacks to sharing their own tales. The community was coming together, igniting a sense of belonging that had eluded Sarah for so long. But each step forward wasn't without its challenges. Occasional backlash reared its ugly head, snide comments still dripped like poison into their lives. But with each raise of doubt, the family fortified their resolve. Sarah found strength in her son's fiery spirit and Thomas's unwavering support. Finally, the day of the gathering arrived, buzzing with excitement and warmth. Sunlight sprinkled onto the park, and Sarah stood amidst a flurry of voices and laughter. She took a deep breath, feeling a swell of emotion as she witnessed faces, friends, neighbors, and even strangers gathering together, smiling, waiting to embrace their story. It was a beautiful sight, the vibrant energy wrapping around her like a comforting family quilt. As Sarah mounted the small stage, she glanced at her husband and son, their enthusiasm tangible in the air. "This is it," she whispered to them, hearts pounding in sync. With every word she spoke, she unveiled their journey, the highs and the lows, the shadows and the lights. The once hidden darkness spilled out and became a binding mosaic of shared experiences, laughter, and hope. The fabric of their community intertwined with each story shared that day. After the speeches, people shared more than just stories. They sketched feelings of heartache, resilience, and triumph. Laughter echoed, art swirled through the air, and a bond formed that could weather any storm. In that moment, Sarah realized their past did not dictate their future. Rather, it was the choices they made together as a family, supported by their community, that would light the way. The event morphed into more than just a gathering. It evolved into a movement that nurtured connections and sparked a ripple of change. With each passing minute, the holistic warmth of shared stories eclipsed any lingering negativity as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm orange hues over the park. Sarah felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. "We did this," she breathed, feeling radiant love for her family and the community that stood beside them. "Mom, look!" Jake shouted, his face lighting up again. "They're sharing their stories, just like ours." Sarah smiled widely, witnessing the unity that blossomed from truth. They had taken a leap into vulnerability, and instead of falling, they flew higher than they ever imagined. As they packed up for the night, exhausted but filled with hope, Sarah turned to Thomas and Jake. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Thomas nodded, pride resonating in his eyes. "Together we can face anything." And with that, they walked home, hearts intertwined, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. There was power in their story, in their truth, and together, they were unbreakable. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.